In the tapestry of life, where every thread holds a story, where
America
thread
in
holds
black
a
and
story,
white
emerges
America
as
in
a
black and
haven
white
for the voices
emerges
echoing
as
through
a
the heart
haven
of
for
our
the voices
communities.
echoing through the
In
heart
this
of our
podcast,
communities.
we wade
In
through
this
the rivers of
podcast,
our
we
collective
wade through the
experiences,
rivers of our collective
celebrating the vibrant
experiences,
hues of change,
celebrating the
brought
vibrant
forth by the
hues of
whispers of
change,
hope and the
brought forth
roars
by
of
the
action.
whispers of hope and
It's
the
more than
roars
just
of
a
action.
conversation.
It's
It's a
more than just
journey
a
into the heart of
conversation.
our society.
It's a journey into the heart
illuminated
of our
by the
society.
light of those daring
Illuminated
to
by
dream
the
and
light of
do.
those daring
Join
to
us,
dream and do.
and let your voice be
Join
the
us,
melody that
and
guides
let your
us
voice
toward a
be the
dawn
melody that
where every
guides us
color
toward a
finds its
dawn
place
where
in the
every color
masterpiece of our
finds its
shared
place in the
destiny.
masterpiece of our
Together,
shared
let's
destiny.
paint a future brimming
Together,
with the
let's paint a
positives that
future
dwell in
brimming
our
with the
minds and the
positives that
actions
dwell
that
in
shape
our
our
minds
world.
and the actions.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of America in Black and White, where we coloring conversations on the canvas of America. Tonight, our special guest is Domonique Evans, is a licensed professional counselor, he helps clients rebuild from life moments with authenticity and purpose. With a strong foundation in clinical and counseling psychology, Domonique blends mental expertise with a grounded, real-world perspective by his own journey of perseverance, discipline, and self-mastery. Beyond the therapy room, Domonique is an athlete, creative, and who uses fitness, mindfulness, and evolution as vehicles for growth. His approach is empowering clients to connect with their inner truth and reclaim their narrative. His mission is simple yet profound. Healing isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you've always been. Through midnight therapy, offers a space Hello, Mr. Evans. How are you? I can't hear you. I can't hear you. You know?
It's still breaking up some.
Okay. I'm trying to get your video is not popping up on the screen. What's happening? There we go. Now I see you.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you now.
Okay. Yes, sir. Hey, I want to thank you for being here. And anything you'd like to add to your bio before we get into the show?
No, I think that pretty much covered it. I appreciate you having me on your show.
Yes, sir. Well, let me first get into your foundations and family, which is a little bit about yourself. And can you tell us what was your childhood like, and how did your mother, Karen Evans, shape your clearly values, your early values?
Yeah, so I grew up in a single parent household. Family was very supportive. My mom was very much so a part of my life, and she always used to tell me, whatever you want to do, just go for it. There's nothing in this world that you can't have if it's something that you want. So I've always thought about that whenever I decide to do something. I strive for greatness in everything that I attempt to do. And, see if I actually like it too, because that's always something as well too, is you never know if you're going to like something unless you actually start it. So taking it on day by day, seeing if it's something that you want to do, if it's something that you want to stick with. And she's always been there for me. She gives me advice on everything, and she's just a huge cornerstone piece for me.
Oh wow. I gotta say that apparently that's been a really good thing, because you're on a very great career path, and it looks like you're doing really good things, especially there in the community.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. What lessons from your mother still guide your work today?
So, one value, get everything with your name on it. That is her famous line. She says that to me. She said this to my her cousin. She honestly, I think she said it about 2 days ago, if I'm being honest with you. Um, Shaping your reality, being who you are, never be afraid to be who you are. Not everybody's meant to like you. You'll find your crowd and strive to, be great in those aspects of your life.
Oh wow. So, how did your family navigate challenges, and what did resilience look like in your household?
Mm, that's that's an interesting one. So and I guess it also starts how I got into being a therapist in the first place. Emotions aren't necessarily something that's talked about much in my household. It was kind of you do it. You're measured by your success. This is what you bring to the table. This is what you're capable of, type of thing. It wasn't a, you know, possibly like how you're feeling or what's going on for you. Is if you're going to the school, do this, be great at it. And that was pretty much it.
So, when it comes to resilience, so what were some of the things that maybe have contributed to you, coming into going into the career path that you're in? That you had some things that you had to push against that just got you to this point. What were some of the things that made you resilient?
Being able to just look at things for what they are when they come at you, when it's a challenge. I'm one of those people that like to look at everything's a challenge. You just have to look at it a certain way to get your certain mindset to get through it. Some examples when it comes to dealing with resilience is, just I would say the everyday balance of when I was in grad school and juggling full-time job, being a full-time student, have an internship, still handling my own house because I had just moved out a little bit the beginning of that year. This was back in 2019, and then also COVID had just started as well too.
Yep.
So honestly, when I think of resilience, I think about that time the most because the way things were set up, I felt like at a certain point that I should have just dropped out. But I was
Oh
like,
wow.
if I drop out, what is that solving?
Mhm.
If I give up on what I've been working on for pretty much the past 4 years and add it to just to get into grad school and graduate, what would be the purpose of that?
Mhm.
Many sleepless nights, many like, why am I putting myself through this right now? And I would say that is the definition of resilience for me, like that specific time frame.
Oh wow. So, during that COVID time frame, and I can just imagine, when just thinking about how people were contracting COVID, they didn't know where it was coming from, how it was, people being sick and so forth. And then with you being in grad school at that time, what were some of the thoughts that you had, especially about COVID, that upset your balance as to how you were doing this in school?
Well, during that time period, and I have to laugh at it because when I think back, I'm like, dang, like there's no way. So at the time, before COVID started, I was a social worker at the time. I was, fresh out of school still technically, and just I had a 30 people caseload, 30 to 40 people that I would see within a month. I work with people who had intellectual disabilities and just serving them whatever their needs were, and being able to, I love traveling around the city. Like I got to explore my city when I came back because being that I went to school in Virginia, I didn't get to do that much. So when I came back home, a lot of coworkers was like, no, it's better if you just catch the train or catch the bus so that you can maneuver all these things because of where our office was. So traveling all over the city, grad school was in person from 6 to 9, like Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. I would cook when I got home. I would play the game. It was a balance. I wasn't in the house all day. I was able to do whatever I needed to for me. But I remember the first day of like COVID when it happened, and we were in the office, and I actually drove down that day, and I worked in City Hall in the Weiner building. And I drove down because I was like, I don't know how this is getting contracted. I don't know what's going on. So I was like, I'll just drive my own car because I know if I take public transportation, I'm not sure. And that day got into the office and the CEO like told us, look, everybody go home. We're not going to be in the office today. It's like, okay. Then the next day after that, didn't go back to the office at all. Then I think also with grad school, classes became online. I wasn't going to the gym anymore. Everything was closed. So I went from exploring all around the city, going to grad school in person, to sitting at my computer for about 11 to 12 hours out of the day. And that took a toll on me. That tore me up on the inside and probably outside too.
Oh, wow. So look, you being a therapist, did you need therapy?
Oh, yes, definitely. I think I would definitely be a hypocrite if I said, yeah, I've never been to therapy before. During COVID, I definitely had a therapist because at a certain point, I was like, you know what is working for me right now? Because nothing felt like it was working. Everything that I would typically do wasn't fun anymore, fulfilling, because I was home all the time now. There wasn't any type of transitional periods of, okay, I'm going to work, I'm getting myself ready and doing this. Okay, it's time for me to come home. I'm getting ready for class, whatever was going on, getting my books together. I'm driving up to campus, for the next 10 minutes. Getting out of class, going home, getting ready for bed, or maybe eating, or, play the game for a little while, watch one of my favorite anime shows. It wasn't any of that anymore. It's like I could do it pretty much all at the same time if I wanted to, because the way my bedroom was set up, it was like my bedroom, my office, and because my bedroom was pretty big. And to the point where I had to move around the house just to get some type of transition. Like I was sitting in the living room during meetings, or maybe even stand in the kitchen during class just to, look at different scenery.
Mm-hmm. When did you first realize you had a gift for helping others?
I would say I realized it when had to be in high school.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I would say that's when yeah. Like I would say during high school is when I realized I had a gift or a knack for, just talking to people, or people wanting to talk to me. There's like this running joke that all therapists kind of had the same story in the beginning that, like everybody enjoyed talking to us. And that's kind of how we became therapists or always felt comfortable talking to us. Mm. And one of my most staple moments, even though I would say high school is when I realized that was something that I wanted to do as a career path. When I was about 9, I had a neighbor that was a foster they were in the foster care system, and a neighbor of mine had, them living at their house. And we were about same age, maybe a year or two older than me. We was at the park one day, and he just seemed so angry. Like he was angry, just spewing off and, cursing and just all over the place, and was just telling me all these things. And without getting too into detail, because he was pretty vulgar. And, it just made me think, like, as I got older, what made them feel that way? What thought process drove you to this point, and we're the same age, and, my life isn't like this.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
And
wow.
realizing that as well too, that somebody can maybe, live in the same block, live in the same neighborhood, but have a totally different experience than you do.
Right. Oh, wow.
And it made me curious, like, okay, other people can have another experience. As a kid, you don't think about that. Like, okay, not everybody experiences the same with everything. Like, like cool.
So, what role did emotional intelligence play in your upbringing?
I would say emotional intelligence. I would say, when it comes to that phrase, just when I think about empathy, I would say that was out of all the pieces of a social, emotional learning, emotional empathy, and all of those things, empathy was the biggest one for me. Like trying to understand where people were coming from with these things.
Right.
Like whether it was a good thing, bad thing, high school drama, because who didn't have it? Just trying to see the different perspectives, trying to understand, trying to communicate with people. I had a pretty interesting, I guess, 4 years in high school. I didn't necessarily fit in anywhere. I was definitely a nerd. I was a nerd. Still am. And I love anime. That was my thing. I was a kid. I had a lot of bracelets, a little bit of a deviant, if I'm being honest. I never wore the correct tie. I wore whatever tie I wanted to wear. And sneakers, don't tell anybody, but sneakers. And I was on the track team. So a lot of people knew about me. You would hear my name on the loudspeaker. I would say maybe not every week, but close enough. When I became a senior, I was a student ambassador. I was cool with the popular kids, but most of my friends, we were like the nerd group, but I knew everybody to the point where I would have kids younger than me, like, hey, Dom, or hey, Domonique. And I'd be like, I don't even know who you are, but hi. And I guess before I knew it, I had made a name for myself in a sense, or just I was, I guess, likable. Like it was an interesting experience, like realizing that, because I stuck to myself most of the time. Like I enjoyed the things that I love to do, but I stuck to myself and my friend groups.
I gotta say, I think you're a really good example of not just a young professional, but it's clear, that not only the relationship that you and your mother had, but the way your upbringing actually contributed a whole lot, to not just you, but to society and culture in general for the people in your surroundings, as you're coming up. Because I think it's clear that, you seemed like you were the, what do you want to call it? The stable one, And I think it's like, we all have those kids, as we're growing up, some people are not as outgoing as others, but I can say that it seems like, you had a wonderful, wonderful childhood.
So yeah, I would agree. It's funny. I have an interesting experience with being outgoing. I would say I'm relatively a lone wolf. I'm extremely quiet. But my mom always used to tell me, you're going to stand out because whenever you do stuff, you're just good at it. You're passionate about what you do. And I'm like, well, I don't really want to stand out. And she's like, well, you kind of don't have a choice if you're going to do stuff. Like you don't have a choice. You if you're gonna be on the track team, people are gonna notice you. If you're gonna sing, because that was an interesting time in high school, I was in a glee club, I would sing. You know, I did stuff that required like a social presence. No matter how hard I wanted to blend in and be an introvert, it just wasn't possible.
So let's transition over to discipline and drive. Can you tell us, how did athletics become a part of your identity?
That actually just made me think of a story when I was younger that my grandmom actually was telling yesterday, about when I was younger. I was about 4 or 5 years old, and my sport, track and field, I love it. That will always be my main sport. I still run to this day, will always just be a runner until I just can't run anymore, in all honesty. She told me that when I was younger, we were in the, I think, department store, probably Macy's or something. And she said I started running. At that time, grandma's pretty young. At that time, she had to be in her 30s. And she said she was chasing after me and was like, oh, okay. Like, he got some speed to him. Then after a certain point, she realized that she couldn't catch me. And she, like, people were commenting like, oh my gosh, like, he's fast. And she said she laughed because every time I got to a corner, I would turn and like be on one leg, like I was like about to fall over and then keep going. And she was like, she should have realized back then that I should have like ran track. Played a lot of sports in my life, basketball, baseball, but track and field, when I got to about 5th grade was when I actually started track. And I said, you know what? I love track and field. Like I love running. I've always been fast. Didn't know what to do with that speed, but I found a way to use it at that point. And I would say when I got to high school, that was when it was more of like I have to take it a little bit more seriously. I can't be late to practice. This isn't playtime. Like my coach he was fun, but strict and respectable. And it just made me want to be a better person. Like I wanted to show up for me, my teammates, and also just prove myself to me that all this training and like had results to it.
So what was your relationship like with Coach Julian Edwards?
We had a great relationship. Still do. Still talk every now and then. He was, I would say in high school, when we would do something, like an example was, one thing you could never say was, I can't do something. That was never allowed. If you said you can't, or no, or I'm not sure, or any of those things, doubting yourself, oh, you got push-ups, or you had to run, or you had to do burpees until he said stop. And he was the type of person that'd be like, okay, yeah, do push-ups, and then walk away, and you better be doing your push-ups like as he walked away. Or if for some reason he knew, I don't know, he had eyes in the back of his head. And as I got older, it just made me take that out of my vocabulary, saying I can't do something, and changing it to maybe I'm just not there yet. I can still work at it. Like, it's not a hard no, or I can't complete this, and it also made me self-reflect on myself as I got older. I would say now, being able to take accountability for things. Whether it's, something I might have caused, or if, I just didn't get the proper result that I wanted for something, and saying, you know what, I can try harder next time. These are the areas that I might have just needed more help in, or maybe lacked experience in.
So what did Coach Edwards teach you about discipline and self-mastery?
I would say he taught me, for one, never say can't. And to show up for yourself. Like if you want to do anything, you have to show up for yourself.
So how does sports prepare you for the rigor of entrepreneurship and counseling?
Hmm. I would say it prepared me. Like I have a shirt that even said it, like just blood, sweat, and tears.
Mhm.
Like when it comes to sports, and I would say any sport, it's hard. The practices are long. You're putting a lot of strain on yourself. You're putting a lot of pressure on yourself, and especially, as a teenager, definitely put a lot of pressure on yourself to be the best that you can, or even at that point, live up to other people's expectations of you. And
So,
mhm,
so I was just going to ask you. So,
mhm.
like, is it just the discipline of being in the sport and wanting to be the best at the sport? I mean, did that contribute to a lot of the mastery as well? Did that add anything else to you as the individual?
Yeah, definitely. It's probably one of the only reasons, well, not only reasons, but one of the main reasons why I get up in the morning to do stuff. Just
Mhm.
thinking back and looking like if I was still in high school and I had track practice at 3 o'clock and it's 2:20 or 2:30, all right, I know I got 30 minutes. Let me get a move on, make something shake and bake, and keep pressing forward.
So we got and the people in our audience that are watching. You got some young people that are watching the
Mhm.
show now. What is it that you can advise them as to get through some of those tough situations at high school, or they're coming through.
Say, whoop, I think it disconnected. Not sure, it just disappeared.
So,
Tech. Tech is an interesting thing.
so do you have anything that you can advise these the younger generation here, younger people that are watching tonight of the things that you did, something that you can.
Mhm. First thing I would say, don't be so hard on yourself. Your time is coming. Don't get stuck in that moment. It's a very easy thing when you're in the middle of something, and it's like being surrounded by, like, having a bucket right over you and you're in a tunnel. You never know when you're getting to the end of that tunnel because you got the bucket over you because you're so busy dealing with whatever's right in front of you, and you're just like, oh, this is so hard. This is tearing me apart, that you're not remembering why you're doing it, why you did it in the first place, or what this was even for. I would say when it comes to hardships and dealing with challenges, the main thing is remembering why you're doing it, like reminding yourself, especially when things are tough.
Mhm.
Because I always say you have to choose your heart.
Right.
You can either, like, in the class, you can either choose to study and be successful at it, or you can either choose to fail it because you want to do something else. Both are hard for different reasons. The studying part, that's a positive thing. But if you're not studying, that's also a hard thing too.
So, what's one moment in your athletic career that still fuels your drive?
Mm. And if my one of my friends is watching, he's gonna laugh at this because he knows I hate this race. He, like I can't stand this race. When I was a freshman, I was running a 4x4.
100
I
meters
was
or the mile?
the the 400, so one
Okay.
lap around.
Yeah.
And my team, it was the freshman 4x4, so we were running, and I was the anchor. I was the last person to go.
Mhm.
I'm watching my team. We're battling it out first and second place, like pretty much the whole entire thing. So I'm watching my teammates go around. I'm like, okay. So by the time the third person came around, which was my friend, he was in second place. And I remember I got the baton. And the person that was in front of me, I looked at them. My coach was standing right at the first turn. And we locked eyes. And oh my gosh, like I don't know, that moment felt crazy. We locked eyes and he looked at me and I heard exactly what he said. He looked at me, he pointed at me, and he said, catch him. I said, oh my God. I said, oh my gosh, now I gotta catch him. Like, I have to catch him. If I don't catch him, I don't know what's going to happen. So, and it was an indoor 4x4. So when you do it indoor, the track's a little bit smaller. So you do 2 laps around. First lap, I stayed on his tail. I was behind him. But that last straightaway, that last corner into that straight, I blew right past him.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know. That's like one of the most craziest moments I will ever remember. Because to hear him loud as that, like it was loud in there. People were screaming, like cheering for people. And he didn't even scream it at me. He was just like, catch him. And I don't know if I heard what he said or if I read his lips, like, or if I just mentally knew what he said, but I knew he said catch him.
Oh, wow. So the spirit of competition is a big thing for you.
Oh, yes. I'm a competitive person. Ask any of my friends, family. I love a good competition, whether it's video games, physical activity. Yeah, I will do challenges all day and challenge my friends to something.
So let's transition over to your mental health and mastery.
Mm-hmm.
What inspired you to become a licensed professional counselor?
Mm-hmm. So I would say how it started was, with that one story that I presented earlier. And also when I got to high school, believe it or not, I didn't have a plan to go to college my senior year of high school. Like that wasn't something that I was thinking about. It was, it was on the table. Like I talked about it with the counselors at my school, like what you wanted to do. But I actually had thought about going into the Army. Like I actually didn't think about going to college. And my freshman year, I actually ended up having a psychology class. And during that psychology class and of course, it was just an intro class. So we got to look at some basic stuff like dream psychology. We did some of the, I would say, cooler things like dream psychology or classical conditioning, operant conditioning, what it's like to do certain experiments and get the results that you want. And I was like, this is interesting. Like, I like this. Like, I wonder what this is. And I started doing my own research. And when I realized what it was, and I started talking to my mom about it and my grandmom about it, I was like, I think I want to go to school for psychology. Like, it seems very interesting. And, my fellow therapists are probably going to laugh at this one if any are watching. Watching certain movies and seeing how therapists are. And, because there's this running joke that that's not how therapists act in real life. That's just not how we are. But yeah, I would say that's what drew me to want to go into psychology and go into college, because I'm actually a first generation college student in my family, my immediate family.
Oh, wow. Congratulations to you. And, I think with you doing that, do you think you set a very high bar, high standard?
I did. And I kind of feel bad for my younger cousins a little bit sometimes, because especially, I would say from my grandma, mostly, I feel like she sets the bar. And, of course, she still sees me as her baby, despite me there being I would say, I think 14, 15-year gap between the second oldest and the younger three, because there's 3 of them. And sometimes I think she expects them to be like me. And I'm like, look, they're not like me. They're totally different. Like, they have their own interests. They have their own goals they want to achieve. Hell, they might not even go to college because they might find something else that they like, and that's okay. Right. But she has, whenever one of them talk about something or one of their parents say something, she'll be like, oh, well, Dominique did this. And it's a story that my grandma always tells, that when I was younger and she was talking to one of her daughters, and she was shopping for me. She kept looking for stuff for me because I was like 10, maybe 9 or 10. And my aunt was just like, Dominique, that's all you ever talk about. Like, granted, I was the firstborn grandson, and
Okay.
the only one for a very long time.
But look, you're definitely special. I can tell you, I understand that treatment.
Yeah.
How do you define authentic healing?
Being real with yourself. If you want to be an authentic person to people on the outside, you have to, for lack of better words, you gotta smell your own shit. You gotta know where you stand with your own things, where your own shortcomings are. It's to be a great person, you gotta look at, I guess the failures, the experience. And with looking at the failures and the experiences, just being able to self-reflect and be like, all right, this is where I'm failing at in my life, or this is where I need work on. Let me get to that point. Let me see what it is, and let me grow. And that's one thing I can say I loved about just my journey and matriculating through college, especially going to college in another state where I didn't know anybody. I didn't have any family down there. I went to school in Virginia, 4 hours away from home. I was a mama's boy, I definitely was. Not afraid to admit that. And when I got there, it was just by myself. I didn't necessarily have anybody. I made friends along the way, of course, but I really had to navigate that space by myself.
Oh, I think that's important, and that adds and contributes to that resilience that you have, and also with the steadfast and sturdiness that you present, because that you have to be a strong person to actually leave home, go to another place, succeed, and come back if you decide. A lot of people don't understand that experience until they actually do it. And so that's a wonderful thing.
Definitely. And I actually tell my younger clients that with the different age groups that I work with, but especially I would say my older high schoolers and my young adults that are, either just coming out of school, and giving praise to that transition. Because people don't talk about that transition enough, from 17 to 18 or 20 to 21 or 24 to 25, and what that kind of looks like for people. Because, when you're out of high school, you spent 12 years altogether, 12 to 13 years altogether from pre-K to 12th grade to kindergarten to 12th grade, just following rules. You have a certain thing you got to do. You have to get up in the morning, got to get dressed. But one day that disappears. Nobody tells you what you do after that, technically. You kind of just get thrown to the wind, and you got to figure it out. And honestly, I would say one of the many things that kept me going, for one, but my mom has always said, just get everything with your name on it. Do whatever you want to do. Just do it great. Because I think if I didn't have that mindset, I don't think I would have made it this far. Or this would have looked extremely different.
Well, when you say you think it would have looked extremely different, how do you think it would have looked different?
I just don't think I would have had that drive to want to succeed.
Oh, wow. I don't know. I guess, as I listen to you and, from conversing with you and just understanding your presence, I don't know, because I think it would have probably been a little bit better, because you're a very strong individual. And I think you set a presence for your age gap, and shall I say what they call you guys Gen Z, that you set a different standard. And when I say you set a different standard, a lot of times, it seems like a lot of younger people don't quite have that grasp of where they're going, but you do.
Yeah, I would agree. And I would say I got lucky, though. I'm actually not Gen Z, not to knock on their generation, but I'm a millennial.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I don't know, I love that time frame. Like, I think we got the best of both worlds when it comes to stuff, and I think that plays a contributing point to it as well too.
What are the most common misconceptions about therapy in Black communities?
Well, even in, I would say, my own household, when I was younger, it's not real. Like, mental health just isn't real. That was kind of like I wouldn't say it was said blatantly, but kind of like like, what is that type of thing. Say another thing of it's just talking, which isn't true. There's a lot of things that goes into therapy. It's not just about talking about your feelings. That honestly, that is the last thing that you necessarily do. I want my clients to identify, their feelings and what's going on, but therapy isn't this grand thing where it's like you're paying me because I'm the expert at anything. My clients are the expert at their lives. I tell them all the time, you're with yourself 25/8. You see me for an hour once a week. I'm not doing that much for you. I'm not doing anything that isn't already there. I'm just steering you in a direction and not bullcrapping you. And I want you to change whatever's going on for yourself because you came to me for a reason.
Right. So there's a couple of comments here, and I want to say this. I'm going to flash these on the screen. We're having like this crazy weather, so it's kind of messing with the stream here. This one is from um, uh, TOGR8. There's some hands. And then is if someone they're saying the stream is breaking up. Yeah, it is. It's actually having some problems, so I'm sorry about that. And then here's another one from DIYH Jacobs. Very inspiring. And here's another one here. Please like the stream. So is there anything you'd like to say to these comments before we move forward?
Well, I'll definitely say thank you for tuning in and just being here and, listening to my story.
So how do you help clients reconnect with their inner truth?
I get them to connect with their inner truth by realizing where they came from. And for me, that involves me being able to, meet them where they are and understand, how they even got to where they are. Especially with the different settings that I've worked in, I would say before, starting my own business and practice, working inpatient. I worked on the teen acute unit where they had mostly conduct disorders. Loved them to death. They loved to fight. That was their thing. And I worked on the autism unit with the younger kids.
So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. I would say seeing past that hard exterior where they don't want to talk about anything. They're just, I guess, hooting and hollering and just wanting to be deviants or acting like they want to be deviants because they don't. And, meeting them where they are and being my authentic self. Kids appreciate that when somebody is real with them. Kids know they they can sense when somebody is fake very easily, very, very easily. And I've had them tell me that a lot, like, oh, like Mr. Dom, because that's what they would call me. Like, you're just so relaxed, you're so chill. And I'm like, they're like, you never seem to be rattled by anything. And I'm like, well, it just came from experience, guys. Like, I wasn't always like this.
So what does midnight clarity symbolize for you?
So It symbolizes just, and honestly, I had chose that name because when I first decided that I wanted my own private practice, I wanted it to be for everybody, not just people who, maybe had time during the day or maybe worked a 9 to 5. It could be seen like later in the evening. I wanted it for people that, let's say they worked all day, 12-hour shifts. They're getting off 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. Making myself available to people, late at night if you want to have a session. And I actually, being that I just started my business, I'll say about a month ago, and about a month in, a week ago, like going independent and everything. I have one client that's like overnight, and it's interesting, because people expect therapy to be like quote unquote traditional, where you're sitting in the office, you're laying in the chair, and somebody's just like, well, how does that make you feel? Like, no, that's not what we do here. And that's kind of where the name came from, Midnight Clarity, because they say don't trust your thoughts after 9, 10 o'clock-ish, because your brain's kind of just on autopilot and it's regurgitating everything that you might have went through throughout the day or anything that you're, thinking about.
Tell us, what are the goals that you have set that's going to impact therapy going forward? How are you going to change the game?
I would say how I would change it is I like to break down that wall around the stigma around what therapy really is, and that notion that, I'm the expert, I'm the one that knows, that has the answers. Like, no, I always like to say therapy is a mirror. Like, you're just looking in the mirror and really facing what's going on for you. And I'm just providing that mirror for people. If you got something going on, of course I can guide you through it and help you through it. But I can only go as far as you can. If you're not necessarily doing the work, then I can't help you more than that. I can only give you the tools that can possibly help you. And I tell my clients all the time, but especially when I first meet them, if you feel something's not working, you can tell me it's not working. We're going to figure this out, but it has to be a two-way street of communication. I need to know these things. Like, if it's not working, you can tell me immediately. Be honest. Be like, yeah, no, you gave me this. This is not working. I don't want to write stuff. I don't need to listen to music. Like, I had one client tell me he doesn't like doing deep breaths or things like that, and that's okay. He said he typically likes just to sigh. Like, he'll do one deep breath and just go on about his day. I said, just do that then. If that's what works for you, don't change it. If you can recognize that that's what's helping you, keep it with that, and just be you.
So, how do you help them to see that in the mirror? How do you help them to understand what they're looking
at? I would say my approach to it, and I chuckle because in therapy, like I said, I like to be myself. And I might have a client that comes in and it could be the same problem almost every week or something like that. And they might say what they're doing to do it, and it's been something that they've been doing for a while. I definitely am that therapist that will be like, well, how's that working out for you? And then really call it out. Like, you've been doing this for X, Y, and Z. How is this working out? Do you feel it's working? Do you need to change? Like, just planting those seeds that it can change.
You're right.
I think sometimes the struggle is some may feel that they can't necessarily change what's happening for them.
So, how do you integrate mindfulness and movement into your sessions?
I would say how I integrate it the most, especially mindfulness. And when I think of mindfulness, I think of, setting aside some time for yourself for self-care. And that's a word that's thrown around a lot in the mental health world. And I broke it down into two categories. There's self-maintenance and then there's self-care. Self-maintenance is more of a thing that you do to keep yourself together. Like a car. A car needs an oil change and it needs gas or it's not running. So self-care, I mean, not self-care, self-maintenance can look like you're getting a haircut, you're drinking water, you're eating what you're supposed to be eating, you're getting enough sleep. That's self-maintenance things. If we're not getting those basic things, we're not able to maintain anything. You know, or at least if we're maintaining or trying to maintain, it's just going to be extremely crappy. Self-care is more of, you know, you could take those extravagant trips. You can set aside a week for yourself, 3 days for yourself to do whatever you want to do. Like I always tell people, there's nothing like being able to go on vacation and you don't have to worry about whatever's going on back home. You know, being able to separate your life and be in that moment.
So, what's one breakthrough you've witnessed in your practice?
One breakthrough moment that I have experienced that was an extremely interesting one was I was working with a client individually, and they had just they were struggling and got kicked out of their grad school program, and which is heartbreaking because the reason that it even happened, it definitely could have been avoided, but things happen. And as we were, you know, talking about it, processing it, and I asked them a specific question. I can't remember what that question was entirely. And I remember. I had asked them, you know, when did you start noticing that, you know, you were getting behind on your work and that, you know, it was like an excuse build up to every single time? And what was going through your mind when that happened? And, you know, I started relating that to different aspects of his life, like how he was showing up for different things. And he said, you know what, all in all, like when I think about it all, he was like, because of how my family was and how my family is, I feel as though I'm going to turn out like them. So subconsciously, I wasn't putting my best foot forward. And when he said that, I was like, you know, you're not your family.
Wow. You know, what I think is impactful, in that situation, and, you know, you're a therapist, so maybe you can help me figure this part out, is that, you know, there are a lot of people that basically get stuck on, you know, the approval that they have to have from family, or you know, that they have to do what family wants them to do, which makes them very non-assertive to the things that they want to do. So, in just said situations like that, what are some of the things that people should be thinking about or doing in order to alleviate those kind of situations and knowing that they need to put themselves first a lot of times?
Yeah, and I would say putting yourself first, that hitting that like the nail on the head with that one. I would say a lot of younger people struggle with that, you know, not really necessarily knowing what that means. And like you said, wanting that approval from others, or, you know, maybe even in friend groups, sometimes it's not even, you know, your parents or your loved ones or family members, it could be your friends or people that are surrounding you in different environments. You know, being able to put yourself first and think about what your goals are, it comes with a lot of hard truths. You know, you can't be a people pleaser and try to go for what you want to go for.
Right. And, you know, but I just think that with so many people now, especially with the way society and environments are today, it's like it's, excuse me, but maybe again something else that you can help correct me with, but it's like, with my approval, you just don't, you're nothing, you know. And when they throw it out, a lot of people with me really get stuck on that and feel like they're nothing. So, you
Yeah.
know, like, what do we need to do to build up the esteem all the time? What should we be doing when it comes to that?
So I would say, firstly, one of the first things that I even practice myself is talking kind to yourself. We just, as humans, we can be a real negative sometimes, like just real negative. Like there was a line that I said to one of like a group of kids when I was working at my previous job, and we were in group, and I said we have 86,000. If you had $86,400 and somebody took $10 from you, what would you do? And some of them was like, oh, it'll be okay. It's just $10. Like, I still have the rest of the money left. Like, why does it matter about $10? And it was funny because I got this from somewhere. I can't remember where, but I got this from somewhere. And I said, all in all, we have 86,400 seconds in a day. Why do I let 10 seconds of something negative just ruin everything else? And, of course, all the kids get mad at me and they're like, oh, Mr. Dom, you're always doing this, trying to make us think about stuff. I'm like, well, you need to think about it. If we have all this day left, all this daylight, and you have one thing happen and y'all see it as a negative interaction and y'all just harp on it all day and maybe not complete anything for the rest of the day. Mm-hmm. It's like, you don't got to do that. The same way good things come and go, bad things come and go too.
Yes. So how do you approach trauma-informed care?
Again, I would say definitely goes back to meeting clients where they are. And also separating myself from it. And this is something that I would say any good therapist does and realizes is being able to separate yourself from that. Just because I'm able to do a specific thing doesn't mean somebody else is able to do a specific thing. Recognizing that, like I always like to use this analogy of, let's say a 5-year-old, their favorite crayon breaks. That could be a traumatic event for them, and they might break down and start crying. And, the parent might come along and say, oh, I can just get you another crayon. We have the necessary skills to think about that and lived experiences to realize that. But somebody who's 5 years old, 6 years old, all they know is my favorite crayon is broke. I can't use it right now. I need another crayon. This is my favorite color, red. And they're just like, holy hell, I can't use it. I don't want to use pink. I don't want to use orange. I want this red. They're stuck in that. Mm-hmm. So being able to just meet them where they are and understand to the best of your abilities what it takes to really help them. And just adapting to that.
You have another comment here. I put it on the screen from T-Lo Great. He says, love that 86,400 seconds. So, but with that, because that is actually very interesting. Mm-hmm. Because when you just think about that as you put that, like with that concept, you can use, how many ways can you use that concept? Because when you think about 86,400 seconds, that's a lot when you think about it. But when you think about that whole time frame that it covers, there are concepts that can go along with that people can actually use in their daily lives as to what they do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say that's especially is more common. I use this for people who might struggle with ADHD or just being able to stay on task. And even I use it sometimes because it helps me, is having timers for stuff. And one rule I like to live by, and I tell my clients about it as well, is if you have to do a task and it takes less than 2 minutes, just do it. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes we'll harp about everything that we have to do, and then we won't get any of it done because we just spent all day thinking about it and how much time it's going to take to do it that we never actually do it. And realizing how much time how many things you can actually do in a lot of time. Like earlier, for example, for me, ongoing joke with just therapists, sometimes our notes, we have a lot of notes that we have to do sometimes. I had 7 notes I had to do. I said, what I'm going to sit here and focus on, I'm just going to get them done. I set a timer just to see how long it takes me to complete one note and then all 7 altogether. It's like, so I'd set the timer and I would lap it every single time. It took me like 2 minutes to do every single note. So altogether, I would say roughly about 14 minutes altogether. But if I think about it just in general, like, dang, like I have to do 7 notes. I don't feel like doing them, and I could be doing something else. Now I'm just wasting time thinking about it. And that 5 to 10 minutes that just went by, I could have been done already. So it comes down to being more intentional.
So what's your philosophy on healing and identity?
When it comes down to being able to realize who you are, your identity, and healing, I would say there's a specific time frame when I would say when you get to about 23, between the ages of 23 to 25, and just my philosophy on it. Those are the years you kind of start to unlearn all of the negative things that have impacted you, and realizing, how do you want those things to impact you? Do you want it to be a hindrance, or do you want it to fuel you going forward? And I say that to say, because in life, and like I tell my younger ones, even my older clients as well too, I would say, before you get to your teenage years, those are your parents' beliefs, whoever's raising you, your guardians, your parents, those are their beliefs. If they believe you go to church on Sunday and that's what you guys do as a family, you go to church on Sunday. But there's a time when, let's say, between the ages of 13 up to 17, you start to hang out with your own friends. You gain your own crowd. You start to get your own ideals about how you think things work. And that's typically the time where, don't tell my mom I say this, but when there seems like you butt heads with your parents a lot, and they're just like, oh, you think you know everything. You think you're grown. And that is a pivotal moment for teenagers, figuring out what type of person they want to be. And I think when it comes from a parent's point of view, they think you're just being defiant sometimes. Maybe in some cases, yeah, I'm not going to lie. But in that moment, that's when you're developing things. And then there's that transitional period of, now you're out of high school. Now you really got to figure it out, or at least know what direction you're going in. And then as you just get older, you start to realize that there might have been some things that your parents did that impacted you in a certain way, rather positive or negative. And even now, when I look back, I remember having a conversation with my mom when I was about probably 24 or 25, and just thanking her for all of the, I guess, hard truths and hard lessons that she gave me. Because I was at the age, I guess the point in my life where I was able to realize that the things that she might have taught me were to either, protect me in a certain capacity, or for me to just do better in life.
So how do you support clients who feel disconnected from their purpose?
Most of the time when a client may feel disconnected with any age group, I always go back to, what gets you up in the morning? What makes you keep on living? And depending on how they answer that question, some people can identify the things. Some people might have kids. Some people might say, oh, going to college, playing a sport, my job. Those are the things that keep them living, keep them moving, and keep them motivated. Then you might have some that's just like, you know what? I don't even know. And believe it or not, I have way more people that say, I don't know what my purpose or identity is, than a little bit. And it spans from all different ages, from teenagers all the way up to 70.
Wow.
I've had a lot of people say, you know what? Like, I don't know what my purpose is. Like, I don't know what I want to do right now. And I always say, look, it varies in life. I think your purpose is always going to change. One day I might wake up and say, you know what? I don't want to be a therapist anymore. Because that day is going to come. Eventually I'm going to be like, I'm retired. I need something else to focus on. That's a real reality, but it's something that I've thought about. It's something that I'm going to prep for because one day it's going to happen. I'm going to have to find something else to occupy my time. And when they don't necessarily know what they want or what their purpose is, try to just get them to self-reflect on what their strengths are. Because again, as humans, we like to be negative nillies and just focus on, oh, I'm not good at this, I'm not good at that. No, what are you good at? What can you do? Like what are your strengths? What do you get up for? Like what do you do for work? Let's find something that grounds you, keeps you motivated.
Well, you got two comments here. Here in the chat. One is from NV Nelson 8362. He sent some hearts. And there is another one here by Beast by Bolden 8088 or 86. I can't remember see what that number is exactly. It says, I concur with Mr. Evans. Unlearning the negative ideals taught by those who brought you up is the first step, which is why it's important not to just shut down when the youth they ask questions. Okay.
Yeah. I agree with that. It's a lot of people like to shut down youth when they're asking questions or attempting to necessarily just become their own or be curious about things. I will say, yeah, be curious. Like when kids are curious, especially, in the Black community about things, you always get to why you shouldn't do something or
Right.
This is going to be hard. It's never, okay, I support you. Well, I won't say that. Some people have that. I definitely did have that. But I got both of those sides. It was like, okay, I support what you want to do, but this is what it comes with. I definitely got the optimism from it. My mom was definitely like that. She would say, oh, okay, this is what you want to do. Okay, this is what can possibly happen. It is your choice. Especially when I got older, she would counsel me through it, of course, but she's like, no, ultimately it's your decision. You got to figure out, what you want to do. And being able to unlearn those negative behaviors that we might have learned either from home or from when we were in high school or, just as a young adult, like plays a pivotal role in if you want to be great and have success in anything.
So let's transition over to your entrepreneur impact. Can you tell us what led you to launch Midnight Clarity Therapy?
Yeah, I'm not big on working for other people. I have a strong personality. I'm able to admit that now. I wasn't always able to admit that, but I have a strong personality in a good way. If I was to say so. I like things to operate from a place of care for my clients always. And a lot of corporations sometimes don't have that best interest at heart for clients when it comes to that. Whether it's, you have 30 people in your caseload and you're seeing 30 patients a week, that's a lot. You can't necessarily give them your undivided attention when you're like, dag, I got to see 5 more people today and they all need me to show up for them. And I would say that's one of the hardest parts about being a therapist as well, too, is you have to show up. Mm-hmm. Like you could be transparent with your clients, but like, look, maybe I'm not 100% today. That's okay. But you got to show up as a therapist and really leave your own stuff at the door. And I actually was just talking about that with someone today, being able to transition through life. And when one aspect of your life is completely destroying you, but you got to show up for something else, for someone else, not bringing that with you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I will say this. You definitely made that clear in our vetting interview call. And I got to say, that's, but again, that's what makes you the great young therapist that you are today, that the impact that you're trying to make, that's going to make that impact. That I can clearly state and say that I will stake my claim to that.
Thank you.
Because I believe that. How do you balance clinical work with creativity?
I would say clinical work with creative freedom. Being that I like a bunch of different things, I always incorporate that into session. Like I said, I like to be my authentic self. I'm a huge believer in there's a bunch of different therapists out here. We're all different. Nobody's alike. And being able to necessarily bring what I have to the table for them so that they're able to just reconnect with themselves and understand who they are. And with being able to connect with who they are with everything, just necessarily, showing them different things. Like one of my biggest things that I used to love to do when I worked inpatient was I would do mindfulness Thursdays, and we would play with kinetic sand, listen to music, and I would have people ask me like, "Oh, what's the purpose of this? It just seems like they're playing." Like, no, it's not just about playing. Granted, I do want these kids to play. Being an inpatient is a very harsh setting, but I'm teaching them soft skills, how to interact with one another, how to intermingle, what it's like to have a conversation, even if it's just little words or, just a little interaction, but knowing how to share. People don't know how to share, especially adults. People don't know how to be nice to people, or just put their best foot forward or just be positive. And being able to teach them, like, you can have these things. Don't let people walk all over you, but you can have these skills to be nice and talk to people and discern when to use them. But some of them don't know how to do that. They might have something and then another kid comes along, picks up one of the little toys or something. Your immediate reaction does not have to be to try to snatch it back or try to beat them up. No, we can handle this with with a little talking. It's okay. I love incorporating music into my sessions. If it's just on in the background, it creates a different atmosphere for some people and it can transport them somewhere else.
So, can you tell us what's the biggest challenge in building a mental health brand?
I would say, especially in just the Black community, just the biggest challenge is getting people to realize that there's nothing wrong with seeing a therapist. You're not crazy. You're not, you're not defective. Think of it as going to the doctors. Everybody gets a checkup every year.
Right.
You're supposed to go to the dentist, I believe, twice a year to get a cleaning. They examine what's going on for you. Think of that as the same thing. You go to see a therapist, even for me, I'm never ashamed of it. I'm proud to say it. I've been in therapy 3 times. All 3 times, all 3 different times, parts of my life, and all of them had 3 different goals and something to focus on. So being able to just reflect on it and also being able to accept the help.
Right. Just as you say that, you're right about the stigma in our communities, but I'm going to tell you something. When I actually had the first opportunity to go to a therapist, it actually was with the COVID time. I had never, ever been to see a therapist. And so I decided I was going to go see a therapist, right? That was a really great experience. And it was a really great experience. And the thing, it helped me to be a little bit more better with my coping, a little bit more better with my self-awareness. And that's what.
Oops.
When you talk to your clients, are these some of the things that you do with them as well?
And said it one more time for me. It broke up a little bit and it cut out.
Yeah, when, like I said, when I went to see a therapist and when I learned to start doing mindfulness practices, started doing some yoga and just relaxing a whole lot more and just being a whole lot more within me to just be a little bit clearer in mind. Are those some of the things that you do with your clients?
Oh, yes, definitely. And one of my biggest talking points right now is your capability versus your capacity, and explaining like what that is in general to my clients. Capability is what you're capable of. Like if you do 100 push-ups, you could do 100 push-ups. But your capacity is necessarily what you're able to handle at that given time. So let's say, like I said, I know I'm able to do 100 push-ups straight. I could have had a hard day, and let's say I can only do 50. That doesn't mean that I can't do 100 anymore. It just means that right now my capacity was low and I can only do 50. And being able to, recognize that, because we're not always operating 100% in any given area. All in all, I would say our capacity spans across, I would say, three basic things, your physical body, your mental state, your spiritual state. If, let's say mentally, let's say you're dealing with a lot emotionally. Let's say 50%, you're a student, that's taking 50% of your emotional energy. Let's say you're an athlete, you're a student athlete, and that's taking another 50%. Let's say you got a stressful test that's coming up, and that just added 50%.
Oh, wow.
That's 150%.
Yes, it is.
And then that didn't even include the physical sense and then the spiritual sense, forever how that looks for people. So now we're burning the candle at both ends emotionally, 150%. Think about your bank account. If you got $100 in the bank account, you spend 50, and then you spend another 50, but then a bill comes along and takes $50. You got negative $50 right now. It's the same thing with that.
So how do you stay grounded while leading a business centered on healing?
Well, one thing that keeps me grounded, just in general, I love to sleep. I'm a sleeper. If I have time in between a session, best believe I am taking a quick nap. That is one of my favorite things. And it really just comes down, I would say, the basics. Eat, sleep, water. Being thankful for those little things and being able to just acknowledge those things.
Let's transition over here to legacy and Black history. When we chatted and I asked you in Black history, who are the most influential people in your life and career? You said it was your mother and your track coach.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us why are your mother, Karen Evans, and Coach Julian Edwards the most influential people in your life?
They're the most influential people, not just because she's my mom, of course, but she has never, pushed me away in any capacity.
Wow, that's loving.
She has always been loving. She's always been caring, not even just to me, but, my friends, anybody else in my life. Like, she's just naturally a caring and loving person. She has always, been that supportive role. And even when she has to be stern about it, it's still there. Like, it's like I said earlier, when I would say, you know what, I think I want to do this. Like, I remember when I first decided, like, you know what, I think I want to go to school for psychology. She just gave me the rundown, like, look, I think that's an awesome goal. I don't think you can't achieve it. Like, she was like, you could definitely do it. But knowing what that's going to look like for you, knowing what you might have to face, knowing that I definitely got your back, but, this is going to be something that you're stepping away from things that I don't necessarily do. And I'm like, you know what? Okay. Like, knowing, and it's something about knowing that you have the support like behind you that can also keep you going too.
Yes.
And I would say with my track coach, Coach Jay, just all in all, like he showed up for everybody on the track team. Like always did. Always put his best foot forward. And he didn't expect anything crazy from you. Just he knew what potential you had and he expected that from you. Like to always try, do your best. And that is something that I've always just tried to stick with me. If I'm going to do something, just do it to the best of my abilities. Whether it's something physical or mental. Handle it the best way that I can, adapt with the situation, and always just have a good mindset with it.
So, how do their teachings show up in your day work?
I would say definitely with Coach Jay, it's I work out like every day, especially now that I'm training for a race that's in 2 weeks, and it shows up for me just when I don't feel like doing it. Definitely when I don't feel like doing it. When I just had that day, where I'm at capacity. Sometimes, like I said, we're at capacity and you're just like, you know what? Mentally, I don't feel like doing this. But I know right now, if I don't do this or if I don't go to the gym or if I don't go for that run today, I'm going to regret it. And then for one, I'm going to regret it. Two, physically, I'm going to feel it when I try the next day after that and I didn't work out that day. You tend to feel it when you're like, dang, like I skipped one workout and then my body feels like crap. And I would say for my mom, when it comes to what she's instilled in me, just recognizing as I get up that I am blessed with a lot of things in my life, and that a lot of people don't have that, or a lot of people don't have the type of upbringing that I've had, or the type of support, and just being able to show up and just be kind and honest.
So, what does Black history mean to you personally?
Personally, is what it means to me is that that's I don't know, like just the overall, like when I think about Black history and everything that I've told everyone so far, it's where you come from, but it's not where you're going.
Mhm.
Like you can create, you have building blocks, but you can create your own after a while, or you can create your own starting anywhere. But after a certain point, you have your building blocks, you have the people around you who care about you, whether that's your blood family, your given family, your friends, work environment, whatever activities you might do, your community, and looking at it in that way. And that's how it lives through me, how I experience it.
Well, so when you think about the Black excellence, from the past, even here now to the present, going into the future, and the legacies prior to and the ones, how do you resonate with all of that heritage, with all that been done, with all that done? How is that within you, instilled in you, that you actually continue that legacy and excellence going into the future?
I would say simply just showing up. It's instilled in me by just simply showing up and showing others that it is possible. Like we said earlier when I spoke about my little cousins and how my grandmom is, and I set the bar high, but I want my little cousins to pass my bar. I would say they're the closest thing to me when it comes to siblings. I want them to pass with the standard that I set. I want them to do whatever they want to do, and they're definitely all just talented too. And whatever you feel that you want to do, just do it. Like, I'll support you the best way that I can. Just do it. Is if like one of my little cousins, for example, she wants to go to law school. And I'm like, okay, go to law school. Go. If you want to apply for scholarships, you want to do anything, and especially as someone who just went through it and had to figure it out on my own a little bit, like of how to navigate that specific space, I want her to feel that she has the support to choose that and be like, okay, like this is how we can get some help in this area. This is the channels that you can go to. I know some people that can do this or help you with that, or just a shoulder to cry on when things is hard. Because hell, life is hard sometimes. My other little cousin, he's very talented when it comes to like music. He's a big personality. Like, I swear he would make an awesome streamer or something. Like, he plays games just as much as I do, probably way more than I do. And he's if he was listening to this, he'd probably laugh and probably hate me a little bit, but he's a chatterbox. But I love him for being a chatterbox. He just talks. He can't help it. He just talks. And I'm just like, man, you don't run out of anything to say, but that is an awesome skill to have.
Oh, it is. So how do you honor Black legacy through your practice?
One of the things that I actually just started doing that means a lot to me, and I'm excited to start, it hasn't started exactly yet, is here in my city. I just got contracted with the juvenile justice court system and helping kids that might struggle with like misdemeanors or like little petty thefts and things of that nature to a second chance at life, where the judge said, okay, I see these things, this is what's happening, I want you to do this at the community service or things of that nature. And being able to just give back to someone who may not be able to afford coming to therapy, because therapy is expensive. I wish it wasn't. And being able to help someone who may not have it as well as I had, or maybe just a different environment that I have, and give them the necessary tools to just, for one, survive, learn yourself, learn your identity, learn what it means to you to just do whatever you want to do. And one of the things that was said to me when I was brought onto that contract was a lot of the kids, being that they are, children of color or part of the Black community, was they want therapists that look like them.
Yep.
And, I was like, I can't even be mad at it, because from a kid's perspective, that's what they want. That's what they need. That's what it means to them. Like, I want somebody that looks like me to help me. And one thing that I liked about inpatient was, when I would show up on the teen unit or even the younger kids unit as well too, I was able to show up for them. I was able to meet them where they was. I, got down on their level, in a good way, where if they want to listen to certain music, okay, let's listen to that music. I want you to tell me why do you like this song? What does this mean for you? Let's have a conversation about the various topics, and I'm just here for you as somebody who has knowledge about it. And if I don't have knowledge about it, hell, I'll go find it. I'll do some research for you. We can talk about it that way too.
So, final question for you.
Mhm.
What role does storytelling play in preserving Black resilience?
I would say the role that it plays in just being able to keep Black resilience around is, and it also, I guess, goes back to a book that I just finished writing, is always telling your story, never being ashamed of your story, and, being honest with yourself. I always say, all in all, I think at this age now, this is one of those things where, I'm always going to be myself now. I think when I was younger, it was, in certain things, you might shy away from it or may not want to be like in the crowd or in the public eye or things like that. Now I'm just like, you know what? If you don't accept me for who I am, it is what it is. Like you're lost. That's how I got to look at it sometimes. Like it's your loss. Not everybody's meant to be colleagues or friends, and that's okay. I think a lot of people see it as, oh my God, this person doesn't like me. What am I going to do? No, it's fine. You'll get through your day. Like it's not the end of the world.
Definitely not. So, in closing, what are some words of wisdom and encouragement that you like to leave with our audience? Tell them how they can connect with you on social media. Tell them about your website, some of the things that you do, how to buy your book, all of those good things.
So I would say, what was the first part of that question? Totally lost my mind.
Just words of wisdom and encouragement.
Oh, words of wisdom. Okay. I have to stick to what my mom says, get everything with your name on it. Don't shy away from something just because somebody else told you that might not be a good idea. Find out for yourself. If you have an idea or a plan in your head, go for it. I think the biggest killer in life is probably regrets. So definitely going for it, doing what you can, and getting the support, whether that's from family, friends, community, wherever you feel comfortable the most, getting that support, having that support. Because being alone is also a hard thing.
Yes, it is. So, what about them connecting with you on your socials? How they can connect with you? How to buy your book and all those other things.
So, book isn't published yet. I'm working on that. Probably, I would say probably sometime in December, January time when I actually figure that all out. Because this is a new process for me. But I would probably say for that, when that happens, I'll keep that open. But probably Amazon or maybe bookstores, depending. How to get in contact with me. I'm on Psychology Today. You can just type in my name, psychologytoday.com, and my name will come up, and my picture will come up as well too, so you'll know it's me. My Instagram, Midnight Clarity. It's spelled exactly how it's written out. There's no spaces or anything, and just to keep it simple for me because I'll forget myself. And yeah, I would say those are my biggest platforms that I use the most.
Well, I want to thank you for spending. Well, first of all, I want to I'll say to you as well as to our audience that I want to apologize for this weather situation that's causing the disturbances here in the stream. Really do apologize for that, which is why I hope that we can have you back, for another time on the show. But I want to thank you for your time and being here, and helping people to see and learn some things. One, about the work that you do in the mental health capacity as a therapist, but also that the stigmas, that they really don't show signs of anything other than we can always do better and we should not listen to those things. I definitely want to appreciate you for that, because in these days and times that we have right now, this climate, it doesn't matter if it's political or non-political, it's definitely getting to a point that it's taking a toll on a lot of people's mental health. And with that being said, it's one of those things that, when we start feeling like this, we all should be doing some things that, would just make this that much easier and that.
Say, whoops. That storm must be like a killer.
Thing here in the chat. I put it on the screen. Yes. But again, these are just some things that our community needs to be able to deal and to cope with these things a whole lot better. And with professionals like yourself, it really adds value when people get the opportunity to see someone such as yourself that can actually help them in dealing and coping with situations that they might feel is a little bit overwhelming for them. And
Yes.
in knowing that, that there's always a place that they could go, it makes it that much easier. So those of you that are watching, and especially if you're looking, for a therapist, and you're especially in the area of where Dominique is, please reach out and make that appointment. He's there readily available to accept the clients, and to help you guys to go through whatever it is that you're going through. And you'll also be able to, you can feel much more comfortable about the therapy because you firsthand just got to listen to what this young man has to say and how he deals with his profession. So he's definitely adding that value, not as a community, but to the people in general. And this is what we need to be thinking about as these times are getting a little bit crazier every day, just for ways and resources to get to where you need to get to make your life that better. For those of you that are watching on all of the 8 streaming channels that we have, I definitely appreciate you. But in particular, for those of you that are watching on the YouTube channels, if you can please subscribe and enable all notifications, you will be able to catch all of our shows live. You will be able to go back and watch all of our previous recorded shows, as well as continually give us the feedback for the shows that you watch, the ones that you like, and you can tell us, give us some suggestions for things that we have coming up for our next season, for what you'd like to see, or a little bit more of some other things. I want to thank you again, Dominique. I appreciate you. We definitely got to have you back. So I'll be chatting with you soon. And for all of you that are out there watching, I want to thank you for tuning in tonight. Please tune in tomorrow as we have another great show for you on America in Black and White, where we will continue to color conversations on the canvas of America. I'm your host, Charles King. You all have a great night, and we will see you all tomorrow night. Thank you all again.